Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be a champion guide for Contra the Cyclone. We'll be going over her entire kit, how to build her, and if she is worth maxing out, booking, and all of that stuff. So let's get into it. Alrighty, let's fire up the index and go to Barbarians. And Contra the Cyclone is the Force Affinity Defense Legendary up here. That was a fusion event in Raid that is actually currently still going on. And this is going to be Contra the Cyclone. So, first of all, base stats are very good. She gets the base bump of 20 accuracy and 40 resistance. 99 base speed is pretty good. Anything above 97 or so is about what we'd like to see. So the base speed's not great for a legendary. There's some that are up around 110 and stuff, but it's fine. Base defense of 1542 is very good. And base HP of 18.3k for a defense champion is also pretty solid. Now, aesthetically, I mean, Raid always does a good job in general with the graphics. That's the one thing they really nail and get right. She's a little bit bland in my opinion for being a legendary. The armor is pretty blah. The weapon is definitely cool, and the shield is pretty cool with the little effects there on the weapon and the shield. I think the armor could have used a little bit more pizzazz to it, but all in all, she's all right. And then we've got the A1 that is a multi-hitter where each hit has a 40% chance of stealing one random buff from the target, and we can book that up to a 60% chance. And then with Sniper, the mastery, it'll be 65%. So a very, very good A1. It's a multi-hitter that not only removes a buff, but steals it and puts it on her. So she's going to be absolute S tier for the magic keep. She's Force Affinity, so she counters the magic boss there. And then an A1 with a pretty reliable chance of stealing buffs, stealing that massive shield. Going to be absolutely amazing in that dungeon. And that ability is going to be good in so many different areas of the game. Faction Wars, Arena. That A1 is really good, and I love how we're starting with our kit there being based on defense and stealing buffs. Then for the A2, we're going to be attacks all enemies 3 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing one of the following debuffs for 2 turns. Now remember, we can book that up to 75% and sniper it up to 80%, and it's going to be block buffs, decrease attack, decrease speed, weaken, decrease accuracy, and heal reduction. Now those are all the big versions, and each hit is going to have a 50% chance she's going to hit 3 times. So pretty reliable. Most of those debuffs are very good. The worst one is typically heal reduction, but it can be very good in certain spots. The other ones are very impactful. Block buffs, decrease attack, decrease speed, weaken, decrease accuracy are all pretty good in most situations. And then for the passive, there's a lot going on here, but we've got decrease each enemy's accuracy by 10 for each debuff they are under. That's pretty cool. That's basically a resistance buff for your entire team because she's constantly placing debuffs with that A3. And then this champion will receive 4% less damage for each debuff on the attacker. That's going to help her be very tanky on a champion that's already pretty tanky. And then heals this champion by 1,250 HP each time a debuff expires on an enemy. So again, that's not even debuffs that she places. That's just any debuff that expires on an enemy. So we'll be getting constant heals, constant self-sustain because of this passive, and then a 75% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn on enemies under 5 or more debuffs at the start of this champion's turn. Now, it is tough to get to 5 debuffs, but it is possible, and 75% is a pretty decent chance for just something passively proccing. And then something I think is really cool that I don't think we've ever seen in Raid, this champion can place debuffs on weak hits, so that makes her very reliable in terms of being a debuffer, because remember, she's Force Affinity, so up against spirit opponents when she hits weak, typically you can't place debuffs in that situation, but she can. So even if she's hitting weak, she's still going to at least be reliable in placing a bunch of these debuffs on this A2. All of those block buffs and decreased speed and all that stuff can still proc even on a weak hit. And then she's also got the passive right here, increase ally accuracy in all battles by 60. Her kit is pretty generally useful enough that she really didn't even need an aura to be really good, or at least really useful, but ally accuracy in all battles, not an amazing aura. Typically you want speed, HP, or defense. But hey, it's better than nothing, and at least it's all battles, and accuracy is a pretty universally needed stat. But that is the kit, and remember, down in the vid description, I will have a link to the infographic that I build for my champion guides, where you can see all the information on her and kind of general stuff, masteries that I have on the champion in the video and all that stuff. I do like to point out that you should never blindly copy masteries. And in this case, Sniper, you will not see on the infographic, but that's a really good mastery for her. The tier 5 support mastery Sniper, because her stuff is not 100% chance to proc, so getting Sniper on her is very good. I wanted to have her counterattacking to be constantly stealing buffs in the arena, so I built her kind of in that vein to use her for 3v3 arena, but Sniper is very good, so you definitely want to make note when you're building her and possibly go for the Sniper tier 5 support mastery. But yeah, I will put that away, and we will kind of pull up my Contra and talk about the gearing process and the booking process and all that type of stuff. So here is my Contra, and you'll see that I've got her in stun plus accuracy. That was good gear that I had lying around, and I wanted to try her out in a stun set because she does have that AoE that she's going to prioritize, and that stun can be extremely impactful in basically any situation besides the clan boss, and I'm not going to be using her in the clan boss. But you'll also see that the gear is level 15, some of it, because there is an artifact event coming up here in like the next 2 days. So when that artifact event comes up, I will pop these to 16 and get a bunch of cheap points. That's why I'm holding off on getting her absolutely finished until that artifact enhancement event goes live. But yeah, I did misspeak in one of my videos when I talked about the stun set. You can see the 18% chance to place a stun debuff on her skill. It says attacks all enemies 3 times. Now every single one of those hits is not going to try to place a stun. It's only the first hit, so it's not like you're going to get an 18% chance on all 3 of those hits. So she's not as good in the stun set as I said in a previous video. I want to make sure and clarify that. I did put a pinned comment, but I also want to say it vocally in a video. But still very good. Any AoE champion is going to be at least usable in the stun set if you're not using them in the clan boss. But she doesn't have an AoE A1. It's actually a single target A1, so you can argue stun set not amazing on her. And I may change this around at some point. It just kind of depends on where I use her. But I am going to be using her a lot in Faction Wars. She's incredible for Faction Wars. She pairs very well with the free-to-play legendary that you get, Seal of the Drakes, as a login reward. She's going to perform very well with a lot of the most commonly used champions in Barbarian Faction Wars. So I anticipate if people have Sil and Contra, Faction Wars is probably not going to be a problem in the Barbarian faction for them. And then in terms of building her, should you build her as a support or should you build her as a damage dealer? We tested the multipliers live on stream. Huge shout out to Adam Maxis and Troy for helping me do that as soon as possible. And what we found is, in terms of damage potential for defense legendaries, she's basically middle of the road. So she's not like an extreme awesome defense scaling damage dealer, but she's also not trash in terms of dealing damage. So you can kind of make the argument for both a damage dealer and a support. It just kind of depends how you want to build her. I chose to build her as a high speed, high accuracy support because I'm really prioritizing stealing the buffs, placing the stuns, placing the debuffs, and I'm not building her in a damage dealing thought process. So that's the way I chose, but it is viable to build her as a defense damage dealer because she scales about average in terms of how she compares to other defense legendaries. And then to touch on the booking process here, books are pretty impactful on her. If I pull up the infographic, yeah, it's 10 books. You can see there on the top left. So if you want to max her out, it's 10 legendary books. That's pretty average. You'll typically see your legendaries somewhere in between 8 and 12 books to max them out. So 10 is definitely par for the course. They're pretty impactful. They all go on her A1 and her A2, and obviously buff chance and cooldown are very, very huge. Takes 6 books for that one skill. They're all pretty impactful. So if she's a legendary you're going to be using a lot, if you're kind of an early to mid game player, she can be somebody you use in a lot of different situations. So the 10 legendary books can be justified because they're also very good on the A1. That 20% buff chance in terms of stealing buff on a multi-hit A1 is pretty impactful and worth the books. If you're going to max out her A2 and use her often enough, you can probably justify maxing out the A1 as well. And if you're curious about my thought process on spending books on her and why I haven't yet, it's because I'm already farming the last stage of Barbarian Faction 21. So she's not going to progress me in Faction Wars at all. I'm already speed farming stage 21. my Barbarian team is one of my best teams. So there's only about 3 or 4 factions that I can speed farm the last stage of Faction Wars, and Barbarians is one of them. So if that wasn't the case, I probably would book her, but I don't need her to progress me in Faction Wars at all. And I'm not going to be using her in the Clan Boss, and a lot of my dungeon teams are pretty refined. She's definitely usable in a lot of different dungeons and can perform pretty well, but for me personally, I've got my dungeon teams pretty set in stone. I don't know if I'm really gonna be using her in that capacity. So the most utility I'm gonna get out of her is in the 3v3 arena as kind of a force affinity debuff stunner, and she could definitely see some play there for me. I'm gonna have to kind of wait and see how the 3v3 arena is shaking out, and if she's somebody I'm slotting in there often enough to justify putting the 10 legendary books into her. So I'm kind of waiting to see how that goes, because that's definitely where I'm going to get the most utility out of her, is the 3v3 arena. But yeah, remember, I want to make sure and point out again, Sniper is a very good mastery to get on her. So if you are going to be doing your masteries, you definitely want to consider that. But the counterattack stuff can also be very good in the arena, especially on a defense team where you have a cleanser and all that type of stuff. If you're going to be putting her in a defense squad and counterattacking when they place stuff on her allies. And you can also argue that this would be really good if you had her in an immunity set. Immunity set's very popular in the arena. If you put her in an immunity set, getting this counterattack ability would be very good on her. Otherwise, you can probably argue it's good to go the sniper route and make those debuffs even more consistent. And because of me putting the stun set on, that's why I went with Fearsome Presence, and it also buffs my skills as well to get these skills and artifacts by 5%. But in her case, she's not placing a stun as part of one of her skills like Soul of the Drakes. It's only going to be benefiting the stun on the set, because her debuffs on her A2, none of them are Sleep, Freeze, Fear, or any type of CC. It's mostly the decreased speed, the block buffs, and all that type of stuff. So that is exclusively for the stun set that I have on her. So if you don't have her in a stun set, you'll probably want to go a different route on the tier 6 and either get Eagle Eye, or if you're building it for damage, get Helm Smasher or crit damage or something like that. And then something fun I like to do is pop out and show you her in the end game of the campaign in Brutal, just so you can kind of see her in action. The unfortunate part about her being an XP farmer, you're not going to want to use her in that capacity. There's going to be other options available to you in terms of XP farming. But being a Force champion, you kind of have to slide down to 11-3. If you're self-leveling or whatever for her, you'll probably want to be on this stage. And she's not great. I mean, remember, I didn't build her as a damage dealer. I built her as mainly prioritizing support. So she's not going to be cranking out deeps. This will probably take like 40 seconds or something, but that's totally fine. She's tanky enough to definitely self-level herself and be very efficient with your energy. So you can totally kind of like have her level herself up and do solo XP farming like this. That's what I did in terms of leveling her up. I used the Minotaur to get some XP, and then I had her kind of earn her own XP sitting here in the campaign, and she heals constantly when those debuffs wear off. You can see it proccing, and especially if you have her in a stun set, she's got plenty of CC and plenty of debuffing and self-sustain. Being a defense champion, it should not be a problem for her to win any sort of a sustained campaign battle. And she'd be okay for 3-starring content, but yeah, I'm doing this mainly just to show you her in action, because she's not going to be any sort of S-tier XP farmer or anything like that. So yeah, there is the run, and it almost took a minute, but at least you can do it fairly easily, even being built as a support. And I didn't really go over the gear that I was wearing on her, so let me touch on that really quickly. Accuracy banner is really important. You're probably going to want an accuracy banner in almost every scenario, because that's so much of her utility. She needs accuracy on every single turn, the A1 and the A2. So very important to get your best accuracy banner on her. And then depending on if you're building her for damage or for sustain as a support, you're going to synergize your amulet and your gloves. You're either going to go crit rate or crit damage gloves with a crit damage amulet, or you're going to go a defense amulet and then defense % gloves, as well as a defense % chest. And typically speed boots, because she is a debuffer. You want her going towards the front of your rotation. And then you're just looking for your best blend of sustain and accuracy on all of your other gear, and obviously a defense ring as well to boot. So let's get her graded in game and then talk about if she's worth maxing and kind of what you should do with her. So defense and HP, I would have liked to see like defense and accuracy or defense, accuracy, and speed or something, but okay. Faction Wars 5, she's really good. She's a definite must build for Barbarian Faction Wars. She'll definitely help you out in that capacity. Spider, she's not bad. When she's booked, she's got a 3-turn AoE. Stealing buffs doesn't really do much in the Spider. She can self-sustain. Yeah, so I'll give her a 4, okay. Arena offense, she's alright. She is pretty tanky. She's not going to be a great nuker or damage dealer. But the debuffs that she brings and stuff, yeah, I mean, I'll give her a 4, a 3 or a 4, either way. Dragon's Lair, she's pretty decent in the Dragon. Yeah, I can give her a 4 there. Campaign, she's not that great in the campaign. Definitely not as an XP farmer. She'll be alright for 3-starring content because she's very tanky, so I'll give her a 3. Magic Keep, I don't know how she's a 4.3. She's absolute S tier in the Magic Keep. She should be 5.0, so I don't know why she's down there. She's one of the best champions in the game for the Magic Keep. Clan Boss, not very good at all because of her self-sustain and placing a decreased attack on a 3-turn cooldown. I could at least give her like a 3, but yeah, not gonna be super good. Clan Boss. Minotaur, yeah, she's fine. Yeah, she's fine. She could even be one of those champions that can kind of duo or triple it, so that you can use the Minotaur as also farming XP. So yeah, she's pretty good there. Arena defense, yeah, she's fine. Okay, I'll give her a 4. Fire Knight, she does have the multi-hit A1, and she can place decreased speed and heal reduction. Gosh, there's no turn meter manipulation, but she does have the multi-hit. God, I'm gonna go 4. I can't quite go 5 on her, I don't think, but she's pretty solid in the Fire Knight. Void, there's no sort of cleansing or anything, but she does lower the accuracy. So yeah, I'll give her a 5. A neutral affinity and lowers accuracy. I'll give her a 5. Force Keep, she's fine. We'll give her a 4. Ice Golem, that is kind of a slower dungeon where you need to be a little bit tankier typically. So yeah, I think she's fine there. The only problem is she's affinity countered by stage 20, so I can't give her a 5. We'll go 4. And then Spirit Keep, she's weak affinity, but she's all right. Otherwise, we'll give her a 3. So let's submit those and let's have a discussion about if I have regrets on maxing her and if she's worth maxing out for you and all of that stuff. This is a tough one. This is a tough one for me to walk you through. You definitely want to do the fusion if you can, especially if you haven't completed Barbarian Faction Wars, or if you're a mid-game, early-game type player. She'll be good for you. You'll get some utility out of her. If you're a very established endgame player, who's got dungeons down around like a minute, you're speed farming dungeon 20s and stuff, and you're already, you know, 2 or 3 king ultra nightmare clan boss. If you're super endgame, she's probably not gonna bring a whole lot of power to your account. But if you're early or mid game, she's gonna be very good. If you don't have a lot of legendaries, if you're struggling to progress to the higher stages of dungeons and stuff, especially in faction wars, she will be very powerful for your account, and she can be a very good champion in that capacity. So I don't regret fusing her for sure. She'll be a good champion to have in my arsenal. But do I really need her on my account personally, where I'm at in the stage of how endgame I am? Not really. I don't really need her, to be honest with you. But she is a pretty solid champion. She's not like a trash can. She's maybe like an average legendary. She's not amazing, and she's not trash. She's just kind of an average legendary, defense scaling with self-sustain and some pretty solid debuffs. So yeah, I think for a lot of players out there, she'll bring some good utility and would make sense for a lot of people out there. But for people that have been playing for like over a year and are speed farming all the dungeons and stuff, you may not get a whole lot of utility out of her, especially if you're already completing and speed farming Faction Wars 21. So hopefully we get a fusion at some point that is really game changing for the clan boss, because that's what we really need. We haven't really gotten a fusion that kind of shakes up the meta and helps people out in the clan boss. So I really hope they go down that route. We're getting a lot of general utility champions. I end up always kind of having that sentiment and saying that I want a champion that provides counterattack and does some fun stuff, or you know, debuff extension or buff extension or something for the clan boss, AoE cleansing, AoE block debuffs, something like that, that we can really shake things up and help people progress in the clan boss. That's what I'm hoping we see for the next fusion. But yeah, just to wrap it up, Contra, she's fine. She's an okay champion. For me personally, she didn't really add much to my account, but I could definitely see her helping a lot of early to mid game players progress and kind of help them out towards getting towards that later content. So let me know what you think about her, if you've fused her already, and if you've had a good experience playing around with her, and kind of if she helped your account and all of that. I really enjoy hearing what you guys have to say. So that's going to do it for this video. As always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.